Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Michelle Nedelec. Hi, Michelle.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great. Great to have you on this show. And we're going to have a great conversation, by the way, because we're going to talk all about digital marketing and executive coaching and how to do this thing, as you say, it's called digital marketing, and best practices about it, because you have a lot of experience in it. But before we even go, and before I introduce you and give your bio, I would like to give a big shout out to Aaron Marcus, who introduced us. I recorded a great podcast. It was so much fun with Aaron. And I'm going to put that podcast in our show notes so our listeners can listen to that podcast. And we talked about how to scale correctly and the different phases that the business is in and what action should they take in order to scale. And it was a great conversation. I highly recommend you listen to it, and definitely also contact Aaron. So thank you, Aaron. So that's the shout out. And now, Michelle, let's talk about you. So you have over 20 years of experience as an executive coach, but you specialized in the area of digital marketing with the trades and professional services, and you help them get the basically be online and do marketing correctly.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. So how did you get started? Tell us your story.
Well, there's long stories and there's different versions of it, of course, but about 20 years ago, around the 2000s, I went into executive coaching and helping entrepreneurs to be able to understand how to put all the pieces in place, because they might have been really good at their thing, but they really didn't understand kind of business. They didn't have any business savvy at that time. And it was just a ton of fun being able to help them not only put the systems in place, but to be able to understand the mindset of an entrepreneur, how it differed from an employee mindset for sure. And as time evolved, we moved more into the digital world, and especially the tech behind it, because we found that entrepreneurs simply got baffled by the tech. It was, they were speaking another language. There was somebody to translate for them. They didn't understand why they had put all these systems in place and then they weren't working. So kind of long story short, now when we're working with people and their businesses, we work with them when they're at the phase that I like to call Frankenware, where they have a little piece of software here, a little piece there, and they're trying to breathe life into it, but it ends up being more of a monster than the assistant that they hoped it would be. So that's where our systems and understanding online marketing comes in, to be able to help them to streamline all that.
Oh, that's fascinating. So let me ask you, what softwares, how many softwares do you usually see people have when you start working with them? And what are the softwares, what do they hope those softwares will do?
Absolutely. So sometimes they're bringing systems in from the past that, they worked 10 years ago, they worked 20 years ago, but now they're not integrating with anything. It might be industry specific software. It might be that they've built something once upon a time and kind of hope that they had this, the answer to all of their problems because they had it built for them. And they realize that that's just not cutting it for them. And, or they have desires in their business that aren't being achieved with the software. So email software, they wanted an email sent out, it worked, that was great. But now that they've built their business up, they need something that integrates, that has more systems, more automations, just more bells and whistles that they can incorporate in order to be able to streamline.
Yeah. So if you introduce a system that has more bells and whistles, do they find it that it's harder to actually use or learn, or is there a learning curve? So how is that a solution by introducing something that might be a little bit more complicated to something that they basically had before?
Right. Is when the business becomes complicated, and a lot of times entrepreneurs don't really know what that means. They're just going, I just need a landing page. That's it. Like, how hard can this be? Right. But what they really want is a back-end system that can track who went to the page, whose email is there, what they've opted in for, whether they're opting, whether they're signing up for an event, so they no longer want to get the promotional emails, or they've upgraded, so they don't want to get the regular confirmations, they need the upgraded confirmations. All of that back-end technology requires a little more complication. Usually these businesses are at the point, though, that they're not doing the thing anymore. They're either outsourcing it to a team that specializes in that thing, or they've started to have an in-house team that is capable of doing more. They just need a little direction on kind of what needs to be done and how they do it.
Okay. So at what point do you think companies like that should actually outsource the marketing?
As soon as possible. So there's this conundrum in the entrepreneurial world, is that we tend to be Renaissance people. We tend to be very creative, resourceful, interested in things. We can do that. We can do everything from our bookkeeping to our tech to our writing copy to doing videos to doing the legal work that we actually went into business and running a law firm. And the problem with that is that it becomes very ineffective. It's an inefficient use of time. You can hire somebody for less to do the thing than you can yourself. One of my favorite projects to go through with people is their time management and figuring out how much they could be making doing the thing that they love to do. And it might be doing law, it might be running the business, it might be doing sales, it might be whatever it is. Anything else can be outsourced. And oftentimes people think, oh yeah, if I had $1 million business, sure, I could take 700,000 of it and hire all these people. And that's not how it works. It's, maybe you just need an admin assistant for 3 hours a week. Maybe you just need a CIO to come in your business for a couple of hours, do some integration, see what's there, and set you up with a different system that does the things that you want it to do. But your time researching and developing software is not a good use
not
of
only
your
research.
time.
I mean, I actually experienced it myself. It's kind of like the time that you spend on the phone, let's say with Microsoft, trying to sync your OneDrive because it stops syncing. And
right.
But you can outsource.
And you get somebody on the other end that's going, well, have you plugged it in and unplugged it again? Like,
yeah, turn
seriously?
it off and turn it on. I mean, that's like so I think it's like, that's definitely, so you encountered that a lot. I encountered it a lot. Why do you think that is? I mean, what do you think is the obstacle to actually correct delegation and giving it to somebody else?
Well, part of it is control and being able to give up that control and making sure that it's done right. Part of it is we think that if I don't have the money to spend on them right now, I'll just go do it. And the problem with I'll just go do it is that's, like you said, an hour sitting on hold with Microsoft is not a good use of your time. And being patronized by the IT guy once they get on the line is not a good use of your time. You want somebody that can speak the acronyms, understand what they're saying, knows kind of what's been done and what hasn't, so that your problem solving becomes more effective and faster in the back end when those things happen. And right, paying somebody, even if it's $50, $75 an hour, if you're doing something that could be building your business and bringing on a $10,000 client, then it just doesn't equate. It doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what are the key components? Okay, so you start working with a business, business comes and you start working with them. How do you start? What are the first things that you look at?
Usually what we're looking at is the end goal is what do they actually want to achieve? And I know a lot of businesses say that, but it really does matter. We are not necessarily just tactical. Somebody says, hey, can you take over our Facebook ads? We want to know why they're doing them, what the end game is. What are you trying to achieve with these? And is that really the best use of your time, effort, money, and marketing endeavors? because a lot of businesses also go for tactics. They hear that this is the latest and greatest thing, and this is, made my buddy 10 grand. I'm going to go do that thing. And if it doesn't fit into your strategy and it doesn't fit into the marketing of your ideal client, then there's really no point in doing it. And oftentimes what we find with businesses is they've spent a ton of time, money, and energy trying to do a whole bunch of things to be everywhere, as opposed to being able to know who their ideal client is, where they are, what problem they're facing, what events are happening in order to elicit that need, so that we can hone in on the webpage, the ads, the social media, everything to one stream, one system, and make it more effective. And oftentimes we can just look at where they're spending the money and collapse it and make it more effective. And we actually can save them money just on that, but then actually make them money because now they're doing the thing that works.
Right. Absolutely. So how do you evaluate the efficiency of marketing campaigns?
Do they make money? If they're not making money, then it's not worth it for you. And we don't do a lot of awareness campaigns or things just to be able to get somebody's name and interest out. We want to either promote an event and get butts in seats. We want to have a Google ad campaign, something that's bringing in clients and it's translating. So we're looking not only at the Google ads, say, we're looking at the website, we're looking at the landing page. What is the copy on it? Is it converting? What are those numbers? How do we get more people knocking on the door, talking to sales? And if we're getting a ton of people talking to sales, what's happening in the sales room? Why are they falling off? And is it because the wording is wrong? So we're not getting the ideal client in, we're not getting them, pre-filtered to understand that is your ideal client. And we got to look at all of those things. Hopefully we get those right in the first place, because oftentimes a little fun one is we had a lawyer who was talking to people who wanted to move from Canada or Israel or Europe, move to the States and run their businesses there. And the idea at the time was, hey, you can live where you holiday. So a lot of their campaigns were based around holidays. I was like, just because somebody comes to the States for a holiday doesn't mean they want to start a business there. And in fact, it's probably the antithesis of that. So it was rewriting the ads, the copy, the videos, to be able to have the people watching the ads kind of self-filter while they're watching the ads before they click through, so that when they get to the landing page, they know that they're going to be asked, hey, do you want to start a business in the States? And they're going to say, yeah, I do. How do I do this?
Right. So what I'm hearing is that everything has to be cohesive, that you have to have a plan. You have to understand who you're talking to. You have to make sure that your message makes sense. And then your message is the same across the board.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we start looking at the numbers and how do we tighten those numbers up? Anywhere where there's a huge gap, something's gone awry, and why, how?
Right. That makes sense. Good. So do you have a story, like a before and after story or case study that you want to share about a success with a client when you implemented that?
Oh, we have tons of those. One of my favorite is we were working with a company that has been around since 1960, and they had 180,000 past clients. They had never retargeted those clients. They were sitting in a database, just kind of hanging out. Yeah, those are our past clients. They've been here before. And if they wanted to come back, they would. And, we've done our job, kind of thing. We went, okay, do you mind if we, kind of play with that database and clean it up a little bit, find out things. We ran a webinar for them, and it turned into $1 million in revenue for them just from that one webinar.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely an overlooked gold mine, in terms of past clients, because that can be raving fans, like people that already did business with you and did very well. And a lot of people, this is like, it's not uncommon not to use, to always look for the shiny object or the new client or chasing it, but not really utilizing your existing database, which is huge. Absolutely.
Well, and especially if a business is older or if they've been bricks and mortar, right? They just don't necessarily have the systems in place for that yet. which sounds weird. Like, how can you be in 2024 and not have a digital database? But some just don't. It depends on how they run their business and what's going on. Some of them, these people are in Excel spreadsheets. Some of them are in a piece of software that doesn't talk to other software, or they're in the accounting system going, yep, they're paid, we're done. And accounting doesn't care. They're not going to market to them.
I agree. So what are some of the effective marketing methods that you find, or that you work with your clients on reactivating or activating their database of customers that already exist? Because again, this is the gold mine. You know, what is the process here to actually tap into that gold mine of inactive clients or past clients? What would be some of the actions?
Well, first off, what we want to do is look at, and it sounds weird to some people, is productization. Is, do you have a product that you want to sell? And if you're a lawyer, telling somebody that you're a lawyer isn't productizing. It's they know you're a lawyer. That's awesome. But do you have something that you can sell to them or promote to them and say, hey, this project, do you have this need? Do you want to have it done? And it articulates different in the online world. So in the offline world, you can say, hey, do you need a lawyer? And people will go, yeah, I need a lawyer. Whereas online, people don't usually go on Google and say, hey, I need a lawyer. They're a little more savvy now. They know specifically what kind of a lawyer they want, or they're looking for somebody that solves a certain problem. So they want a real estate lawyer. They want a real estate lawyer that solves issues that are happening already. A lot of them are in that stage of, I have this real estate issue that's already on fire and I need somebody to come in and clean it up for me. Not always our favorite clients, but when we can find those clients, they need somebody right here, right now. So it's being able to say, yes, I have the ability to solve that problem. It's not just that I'm a lawyer. It's, here's what happens when we go into litigation with this. This is what that package looks like. And that translates online a lot better. So if that is the case, then we can go in and look at how are they promoting to people that need litigation. Is there something that happened? Maybe they got registered for bankruptcy or a trust, tax liens, something like that, where there's a calamity and they need that help. So now we can start to hone in on what that is and solving those problems for those people when they need the most, so that they're proactively looking for those clients that are having the problems, that are going to be proactively looking for them. If that makes sense.
Totally. So that is basically how to create a marketing campaign. But in terms of, the question was more that I'm curious about is how, when we talk about the gold mine of reactivating clients, you have a database, but you're not using the database, right? So,
right. So once we have that product, then we can go back to the list. And a lot of people say you have to warm up the list, you have to do things to be able to intrigue them and not just sell them. But if you have a product that translates to the online world, and then you can present those solutions that you have to that audience in a way that they can relate to it. So you're not just saying, hey, we're lawyers and we have, services for you. It's, do you have this problem? Are you interested in solving it? And those emails will get open, those SMS will get open, whatever it is, whatever way that we have to be able to get in touch with those clients. Because sometimes it is email, sometimes it's phone calls, sometimes depends what database is.
Right. So it's basically, what I'm hearing is, if you have a database of previous clients, then make sure that you have a very specific product you want to market to them, productize it to understand what your clientele wants, and then make it interesting, make it relevant, right?
Yeah.
Which applies also like in the trades. So maybe there is a special, or maybe there is some piece of education that you want to educate, and let's say how to winterize their home, right? So that will be like something you can put together. So make it interesting so they will actually want to be engaged with you. I think also, what do you think about, if you have a database, just reaching out and seeing how they're doing, or how they like the project you have done, or if there is anything else that you can do for them? Do you think that will be relevant as well?
Absolutely. And really depends on how long it's been since they've reached out to them. So if it has been, in the case of the business that started in the 60s, that was almost 60-year-old database, which is hilarious. So a lot of them, and you can well imagine for that, had to be a little delicate. Let's put it that way. So that whole kind of setup campaign was, we found your data and we're looking at, are you interested in coming back? So it was, that one had to be a little more sensitive because a lot of them may have been deceased, because 60 years substantially long
totally.
time. Like,
but it's still reaching out of, depends on what the service is,
yep.
We found, we basically, in some industries, it's actually that has a longer cycle, like maybe replacing air conditioning or replacing windows and whatnot. It's actually pretty appropriate because, a longer time went by, do you need us to come back or something like that? Be creative, right? But I think it's the reaching out to that database, cleaning it up, especially if you haven't touched it for a while. I think it's very important, as you mentioned, and do it tactfully. So it's, so you're not upsetting people, but you're still looking engaged and caring about them, and then finding a product that applies. I think it's very smart.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you nailed it on the head when you said the database needs to be cleaned up first. That's a gross assumption on my part, that we always want to look at cleaning up a database every 6 months. So before we're sending emails out to people, we're looking for duplicates. We're looking for a bunch of different names with the same email address, because you could have a family that all has the same email address once upon a time. Things like that are easy to clean up before you start initiating with those conversations, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what is your take on having well-documented processes, especially for marketing and for actually anything in a business? Why processes are so important?
All of them. So it absolutely want to be documenting those things that work. So to me, there's kind of 4 different phases of business. There's that startup phase where you're throwing spaghetti up against the wall, trying to hope and pray that something works, seeing what works. And you can try one thing 1 month, and the next month you've totally forgotten about it. You moved on to something else. That is an absolutely natural and almost a necessity in business, unless you're starting something up with a known track record already. Somebody else has done it and you're just starting your own company doing the same thing. Once you've found something that works, and then you're going to hire and train people to be able to do the thing, and we're going to focus on it, then you want to definitely make sure that you have the systems in place. Oftentimes we encourage people to, when they've hired somebody, get them to do the recording, or while I'm training you to do the thing, we're going to record this and we're going to use that from now on as the training program, making it as easy as possible for them to be able to track what works. Because oftentimes we'll see businesses that are in the growth stage and they've got a product that's working, but then they haven't systemized it. So they're getting 6 people doing it slightly differently. And that can cause a lot of havoc on somebody's revenue, because the customer service just isn't there. They're not getting the same experience every single time they come, and they're not when they give a referral, their referrals aren't necessarily getting the same experience. And without that same experience for the same event, you can't go into what we call the scaling phase. And the scaling phase is you have a well-oiled machine, it works awesome, and you basically throw money at the problem and help it grow. You can go into new markets, you can go into new areas and exponentially grow the business. And the 4th one to me is selling, because once you have those systems in place and they're making money in their money machine, somebody else will come in and buy them and take over that quote unquote monotony. But unless it's a monotonous business and it works well, you're not going to get as much money for it as you could otherwise. So as soon as you can, but a lot of times people will waste a lot of money and time systemizing things that they forget about next month anyway. So that's when it becomes kind of a conundrum, but you're better off to systemize what didn't work and you dropped than to not have the systems moving forward.
You're absolutely right, but that's where it ends in terms of like you have to implement. You absolutely 100% have to implement. So that's a key component. Wow, Michelle, this has been great. A lot of knowledge, a lot of expertise right here, a lot of great advice. If people want to find out more about you, where should they go?
Well, can we give them a free gift?
Absolutely. Free gifts are always welcome.
Nice. So if people are interested in getting a website audit, we have a free website audit for them. It is a $500 value that they'll get for free because they came through your show. And it's about a 40-page document itemizing the different things that are going on from an SEO perspective on the website. So how fast it is, whether or not they're getting the headings and all that kind of fun stuff right. At the end of it, they get the opportunity to be able to book a meeting with me so I can go over it and translate in English and tell you what's important from it and kind of update you on what's important from Google's perspective now, because they're moving towards or have moved towards more of a user experience optimization rather than just the SEO. But the SEO is still very much important, but it's turned much more techie. And what they're looking at is also how do people engage with your site? How long do they stay? All that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, we'll love to give them that. And of course, they can just look up Michelle Nedelec. I'm at michellenedelec.com, and they can find the full array of my how do I put it? My Renaissance personality.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely go to that website, and we're going to have it in the show notes as well as the link on how to do the audit. So Michelle, thank you for your generosity and offering it to the listeners. That's incredible. And for all the knowledge that you shared with us. Thank you so much. It was great having you on this podcast.
Thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Great.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.